Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the HazMat podcast, episode number 24. I'm your host, Chris from HazMat. Lovely to be here with you today. Today is episode 24, and today is also September 11. Now, the reason why September 11 is a feature for today is that the Twin Tower or terrorist attack of the Twin Towers actually Asbestos played a big part in that. So that's what we're going to discuss. Things like September 11, I think a lot of people can remember exactly where they were and what they were doing when they got the news of the attack. It was a terrible, terrible time. We're going back 23 years now, but I remember coming home from school, or maybe I didn't quite go to school, it was already news in the morning perhaps, but myself and my school friends ended up glued to the TV watching developments throughout the day. And certainly after that first plane crashed, I think there's a lot of confusion whether that was an accident or what have you. And then to find out that by the time the second plane hit, you knew that it was a coordinated attack, and that really changed everything. And I still remember that quite vividly now. So just to summarise for our younger viewers that might not know, the September 11 was a terrorist attack in 2001 in New York, where terrorists hijacked planes. One was flown into the North Tower of the Twin Towers at the World Trade Center, and the other one crashed into the South Tower. Also, what a lot of people don't talk about was a third plane crashed into the Pentagon, which is their military headquarters over there. And there was a fourth plane. No one knows for certain where that was headed, but the passengers on the fourth plane actually took back over control from the terrorists and managed to force them to crash it. And it crashed somewhere in Pennsylvania. So United Flight 93, I think it was, but yeah, a lot of heroism there, and they saved another fatal, well, of course that was fatal as it was, but they certainly saved another building being struck and all of the casualties that would result of that. Now, the main thing is where asbestos comes into play was the World Trade Center was built in, I think, the 60s or 70s, that kind of era. And it was full of asbestos products, a lot of asbestos products, because that was what was used at the time. Things like spray-on fireproof material, I'm sure cement sheeting and vinyl flooring and things like that. So when those buildings came down, there was a massive, massive thick dust and debris cloud and field that came out as those two towers collapsed. And it's estimated, I'm sure no one can be too certain, but between 400,000 and 500,000 people were actually exposed to that dust cloud. So first of all, just to acknowledge that day, I believe it's almost 3,000 people were recorded as being killed as a direct result of that attack. Not just at the Trade Center, but I believe the Pentagon and Flight 93 as well. But 3,000 people were killed, more or less. And suddenly all of these fire personnel and emergency services, police, ambulance, rescuers, search and rescue, all sorts of people were deployed and got in amongst all of this dust and debris. So you had people running away for their lives covered in it, and then you had people running into it as well. And that dust cloud contained a huge amount of asbestos fibres floating freely in the air. The estimate is about 2,000 tonnes actually was released. 2,000 tonnes of fibres were released in that attack. And you talk 2,000 tonnes, you talk 400,000 or 500,000 people. Well, you have a lot of exposures now. And as a result, looking back over the last 20 years, studies have been done, obviously, and statistics have been obtained about the exposures. And certainly there was a huge amount of emergency service personnel have been documented as perishing from asbestos-related cancers related to that day, or at least being diagnosed with that a respiratory illness or an asbestos-related cancer as a result. So we have a 19%, just reading some stats here, 19% increase of cancer diagnoses in firefighters who served during the 9/11. 19% increase. As I mentioned, the 2,000 tonnes estimated of asbestos debris that was released. At the time at ground zero, after the attack, it says here the asbestos levels were recorded in the air as being 112,000 times higher than the acceptable limit. 112,000 times higher. So yeah, we have certainly, as time goes on, because asbestos related illnesses have a long latency period, meaning you may not develop symptoms until many years down the track. We still don't know the full effect, but it's estimated now, I believe, that 3,000 odd people have perished as a result of asbestos related cancers and other cancers as well, but certainly asbestos related cancers. So 3,000 people since the attack. So we're talking 3,000 perished on the day, and then in the subsequent 20 odd years, almost the same amount of people have died as a result of the exposure to that high level of asbestos in the aftermath of that attack. So yeah, I just thought it was timely, obviously, for today to acknowledge the occasion and mention the fact that asbestos actually played a big part, a terrible part in that attack also, along with the terrorists. And yeah, I think it just goes to show that we're dealing with a very hazardous substance, and still there are people out there that believe it's some kind of red herring. Well, this is stark evidence that it's not. So yeah, that's about it really. So look, please like and share this episode, and your support really does help. I'm quite happy with the fact we've built up now over 24 episodes, a lot of free information about asbestos, and it will be on YouTube and it will be free to view. So make sure you let everyone know if anyone's got questions about asbestos that comes up or curiosities. The chances are we've probably covered it in the last 24 episodes. So yes, thank you very much for joining us today. And I will see you next week with episode number 25. Thank you.